Well, we consider economics. This is Cambridge International AS and A level economics. The code is 9708/32. We want to look at question 2. These are multiple choice questions. So question 2 reads, the price of good S is $6 and the price of good T is $8. A consumer's marginal utility for each good is shown. So when it's 1 unit, we see that marginal utility of good S is 36 and that of T is 32. And when 5 units, we see that marginal utility of good S is 0 and marginal utility of good T is 9. Now, if this consumer wants to maximize total utility, which combination of goods would they consume? Good S, so the options we have A, B, C, D. So you would have to decide whether this, to maximize total utility, this consumer will go for combination A, which gives 1 of good S and 1 of good T, B, which gives 2 of good S and 1 of good T, C, which gives 3 of good S and 4 of good T, and then D, which gives 5 of good S and 5 of good T. So by calculation, we should be able to find out which combination maximizes utility for this particular consumer. Now let's see. Well, this is Cambridge Economics, and the code, as you have seen, is 9708/32 FM to mean February, March of 2023, and we are considering question 2, as you have seen. So the price of good S is $6 and the price of good T is $8. So price of S is 6, price of T is 8. It's 8. A consumer's marginal utility for each good is shown. So we have units. When the consumer consumes 1 unit, then marginal utility of good X is 36 and that of good T is 32. When consumes 3, marginal utility of good S is 18 and that of good T is 20. And when it's 5, when the units are 5, the marginal utility of good S is 0 and the marginal utility of good T is 9. Now, if this consumer wants to maximize total utility, which combination of goods would they consume? First, what do we mean by utility? Utility is the amount of satisfaction that one derives by consuming a commodity. So in this case, we see that the consumer has to, actually is indifferent between the two, and we want to find the right combination so that by consuming both goods, the margin, the maximum utility is achieved. So first, I'll have to draw this first before we proceed. So the first thing we need to note is that the principle tells us that what we see, just as I've mentioned, is that the consumer will maximize utility by allocating spending such that the marginal utility per dollar is equal for both goods. That is, the principle tells us that the consumer will maximize utility by allocating spending such that the marginal utility per dollar is equal for both goods. So what we'll have is that the number, the marginal utility per dollar for each good is marginal utility per dollar for each good. So I will say I have marginal utility per dollar, and put per dollar to mean per dollar, but we are referring to good S. I will call it MU of S over P of S, that is price of S. And that gives me MU of S divided by 6 because PS is 6. I say the same for T. So I'll be having MU, that is marginal utility per dollar for T will be given by marginal utility of T divided by price of T, and that gives me marginal utility of product T over 8 as such. That's now marginal utility per dollar. But let's see. So I have units, I have MUS for marginal utility of S. Then I have MUT for marginal utility of T. Then I have MUS, and I'm having this sign to mean per dollar. So this now, by adding this, I mean per dollar. And then again, MUT, I add that to mean per dollar. Then the next step now is, okay, we add how many units? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll be having this. Yes, I'll be having that. That's what I have. Yes, that's what I have. And marginal utility for S, we were given this, we were given as 36. This is 36, 24, 18, 9, 0. This is 32, 22, 20, 18, 9. That's what we have. 18, 9. That's what we are given. So we need to fill in this and this. So what value are we going to have here? What are we going to have here? Because now we divide every value here, we divide by 6. So 36 divided by 6, what do we get here? We get 6. We get 6. 24 divided by 6, we get 4. 18 divided by 6, we get 3. 9 divided by 6, we get 1.5. And 0 divided by 6, 0 divided by 6 is 0. So we get a 0 here. We get a 0 here. We get a 0 here. And this was 6. It was 6. As a result of 6 divided by 6. Then we get to this column here. It is now marginal utility per dollar, as I'd said it. So it will be marginal utility for good T divided by 8. So here we have 4. So 32 divided by 8 is 4. 22 divided by 8, that should give us 2.75. 20 divided by 8 is 2.5. And then 18 divided by 8 is 2.25. And then 9 divided by 8 should be 1.125. So those are the entries that we have that corresponds to the marginal utility per dollar for good S and good T. Now, what is our interpretation now that we have these values? Then how do we make our decision to pick a combination of goods of S and T that will ensure that this particular consumer maximizes his or her total utility out of consuming this two commodities or products. So we say to maximize utility, the consumer should consume units where the marginal utility per dollar of good S and good T are as close as possible to being equal, are as close as possible to being equal, are as close as possible to being equal. So we see that we have 4 here and we have 4 there. So that should then mean that consume 1 unit of T and 2 units of S. So the conclusion is consume. So this is conclusion. Consume 1 unit of good T, giving marginal utility per dollar, giving marginal utility per dollar, that is this, of 4. And 2 units of good S, giving marginal utility per dollar of S gives 4. Marginal utility per dollar of 4 when consume good S. So that becomes the answer, and you are supposed to pick the answer that corresponds to this particular combination: 1 unit of good T and 2 units of good S. Now that combination ensures that this particular consumer with this particular behavior gets maximum total utility out of consuming these 2 commodities. So if there is a question that needs clarification or you want to engage me more on this, kindly leave a comment on the comment section. Otherwise, meet you in my next video.